928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019, hump day, middle of the weekday, starting that long, slow glide down to Pauhana Friday and whatever is coming. Well, of course, obviously, this weekend is the Memorial Day weekend. It's the official start of summer. Which is going to come as a surprise to people over there in Colorado who are still dealing with the snow here. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. So getting right on into it, today, as expected, the issue of impeachment was brought up in the House of Representatives, and most of the House leadership are putting tremendous pressure on Nancy Pelosi to move ahead with an impeachment inquiry. And even though she herself would like to see it happen, the signals we're getting is she doesn't think it's a good idea politically, because if they try and fail, it's going to help Trump in 2020. But there are a lot of people out there saying impeachment, 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 and Fox News Channel, they're still going on about it, you know, and apparently there was a meeting in the White House earlier today between Trump, Pelosi, and Schumer, supposedly to talk about infrastructure, and Trump made a comment about wanting all of these investigations to be over, at which point Pelosi and Schumer got very upset and they stormed out of the meeting. Then Trump went on out to the Rose Garden and had his say before the press. And then Pelosi and Schumer had their say before the press. And meanwhile, of course, the infrastructure is still continuing to crumble and nothing is really getting done. Now, George Conway, who also happens to be married to Counselor for the President Kellyanne Conway, basically called Trump a Looney Tune and described this morning's Rose Garden press conference as a pity party. And even worse was he tweeted out a section of the 25th Amendment. So it looks like they're talking 25th Amendment, he's unfit to serve, blah, 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 blah. And apparently a senior House Democrat in an interview with Fox News is saying Nancy Pelosi isn't going to be able to hold off an impeachment push from inside her party. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Now, story over at the New American, Representative Justin Amash, who is a Republican, has declared in his opinion Donald Trump has committed impeachable offenses. Well, he didn't exactly say that. He said, looking at the Mueller report, there were indications of impeachable offenses. So the headline is a little bit misleading here, but he's out there tweeting saying that, yeah, he thinks that this should move forward as well. And of course, with Amash having come down on the side of impeachment against a Republican president, has already triggered a primary challenger for next year's elections, who is challenging specifically because of his support for the idea of impeachment. Now, Trump is getting ready to fire back. According to The Hill's John Solomon, on an interview with Sean Hannity, according to his sources, President Trump is going to start declassifying documents in the next week, starting with the release of the so-called Bucket 5 document, the exculpatory material that the FBI possessed about its targets before it went to the FISA court, but withheld. So that will be interesting to get that on out there. All righty. Somebody did a poll, and 64% of the respondents are convinced the FBI knew the Steele dossier was unreliable when they applied for the FISA warrant against the Trump campaign. And at this point, when you look at the provenance for a lot of what was in there, there was no way that the FBI didn't know that it was bogus. But they were all Hillary supporters, they hated Trump, and they just said, let's go for it. Now, Trump, unfortunately, is losing his battle over his tax returns because a federal judge has now ordered the release of Trump's tax returns. And according to legislation that goes back all the way to 1924, the House and Senate Joint Committee on Taxation may request for examination anyone's personal tax information. The federal law also requires candidates for federal office, as well as current office holders and their senior staff, including congressional members, the president and vice president, along with their cabinet members and senior administration staff, to comply with provisions of the 1978 Ethics in Government Act. It also applies to the Supreme Court justices. So unfortunately, the law is on the side of those who want to dig into Trump's tax returns and see if they can find something in there that they can burn him with, or at least embarrass him. I think it's going to be more of an embarrassment than anything else here. Okay. Now, behind all of this, you still have everybody that's saying, okay, we've had 2 years of investigation into Donald Trump's alleged ties to Russian officials. It produced no evidence of collusion. Meanwhile, we have all this other evidence about how Obama colluded with Ukraine to help Hillary against Trump. We have all this evidence about how Hillary colluded with Russia over the Uranium One deal, and nothing is being done. This is just so incredibly biased. It's absolutely insane. The most recent example involves former Obama White House counsel Greg Craig and how he misled the U.S. Justice Department about his law firm's work in Ukraine. Now, Craig is charged with providing false and misleading information to the Foreign Agent Registration Act office regarding the trial of Yulia Tymoshenko, a political rival of the country's then president, Viktor Yanukovych. So, and former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort was seemingly held to a different standard under the same act during the Robert Mueller investigation. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And moving on down here, little bit of a speculative article. This is coming out of Russia Insider. And it's basically saying that Mueller could actually be in a courtroom next year when the election season is in full swing. And House Democrats, who are frustrated that they can't seem to find anything on Trump, and are trying to find some way to stoke public anger against the president, are pinning their hopes on Robert Mueller again. And he was invited, not subpoenaed, but invited to testify by the chairman of the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committee a month ago. He has not agreed to do so. Well, that's perfectly understandable. Mueller may not want to open his soul to any House committee in the desperate last-ditch effort to wring some impeachment joy juice from the already wrung-out narrative of his disappointing report. And for the excellent reason that the minority Republican members of said committees get to ask questions too, they are sure to be embarrassing questions, perhaps placing the special counsel in legal jeopardy. So this stuff continues to go on and go on. Not too long ago, there was a push by House Democrats to investigate Education Secretary Betsy DeVos over her use of private email accounts. Oh my goodness, she used her private email accounts. You know, okay for Hillary to do, but Betsy DeVos, oh, it was horrible, horrible, horrible. Well, there's been an investigation, an internal watchdog inquiry, and basically concluded that she kept her official mail on her official email accounts and used her personal email for her personal business. So it was another big nothing burger over there. But they're just digging and digging and digging, and they're not getting any work done for the country. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe the busier that they are attacking each other, the less harm they can do to the American people. They're certainly not doing us any good. Now, Michael Avenatti is back in the news. He has been charged with ripping off his former client, porn star Stormy Daniels, and trying to extort Nike in these new indictments. And basically, there was the shakedown effort of Nike back in March that he tried to do, and apparently cheated the porn star. So, Stormy Daniels, lawyers. Now you understand why there's so many lawyer jokes out there. Okay, a little bit of a victory for Judicial Watch. Out in California, a U.S. district judge has awarded Judicial Watch $22,000 in legal fees in a case filed by an Antifa organizer in an effort to block Judicial Watch from obtaining information about her activities. And this is Yvette Felarca. She's a middle school teacher in the Berkeley Unified School District. She and two co-plaintiffs were ordered to pay Judicial Watch $22,000 in attorney's fees and $4,000 in litigation costs. Now, Felarca had sued the Berkeley Unified School District in federal court to keep the school district from fulfilling its legal obligation to provide Judicial Watch with records of their communications, mentioning Felarca, Antifa, and/or BAM. Judicial Watch had also asked for Felarca's personnel file. Now, Felarca is a prominent figure in By Any Means Necessary. This is a group founded by the Marxist Revolutionary Workers League that protests conservative speaking engagements. It's all very organized. They basically go on over and just cause a ruckus in front of these conservative speaking engagements, and very often they get violent. And earlier this year, Felarca was ordered to stand trial on an assault charge. Okay, let's take a phone call. Fred in Michigan, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, love your program as always. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. I do work for the DeVos families. It's not DeVos, it's DeVos.
DeVos,
okay?
I stand corrected.
Yeah, so, and anyways, they're really nice people and stuff, but yeah, I just want to say it's DeVos. They're very big. They pretty much own all of Grand Rapids. They've been so successful with the businesses they've had, you know, Amway and what have you. But so anyways, just wanted to make that correction, and I love your program, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. Thank you very much for the information. When I watch TV, I have the closed captioning on and the sound off. So very often, you know, I'm just going from what I read. And so occasionally I do make a mistake, but thank you for the correction. All right, let's talk about the war zones. Things are heating up, and it's not getting any coverage in the corporate media at all. Story coming on out from Information Clearinghouse, and it talks about how the fact that Trump's national security team has been leaking so-called intelligence about Iranian threats for a week now in an attempt to justify escalating tensions, including moving American air attack assets to the Persian Gulf, meaning the USS Abraham Lincoln, the B-52s. And a closer look, though, suggests that National Security Advisor John Bolton and other officials are trying to pull off an intelligence deception comparable to the fraudulent pretense for war in Iraq. Now, maybe they're hoping that Americans have short memories. I don't think so. Pretty much everybody I talk to, when I mention Saddam's nukes, they go, oh, yeah. They know they got lied to that. This article also goes on to say there's credible evidence Israel could be playing a key role in the subterfuge. Now, again, we're coming up on the Memorial Day weekend, and if they're going to try a false flag, that would be a good time to do it. So would July 4th weekend. But they've got to do something. Iran is not doing anything that would justify an attack. Now, the attacks on those 4 tankers a while back may have been an attempt to create a false flag to blame on Iran, and they fizzled it. They botched it. they put a couple of little pinprick holes in the hull, and that was about it. It's hardly enough to go to war over. And I think what they were hoping for is that they were going to have one or more of these tankers just exploding into flames and floating there in the Persian Gulf, making all kinds of great news video and commentary and say, oh, those dastardly Iranians. But if at first you don't succeed, try again. And now, of course, we have all this talk about an attack by Iran on U.S. forces in Syria. All right, we're going to go to the phones here. Layla in Canada, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was just looking at your thought for the day, where it talks about a standing army being the bane of liberty. As you know, throughout human history, governments or rulers, armies that are invading other countries very often use mercenaries because they couldn't rely on the ability or the loyalties of their own army. I've started to think of the invasion of the migrants as being mercenaries, essentially, because what their job is to upturn or disrupt the social values in the society that proved successful in the U.S. and Canada and Europe. And they're being paid, which is basically what mercenary armies do. But since this is not an actual military invasion, it's a social invasion.
Yes.
To destroy society. And I think that's probably the way we have to look at them, as being coordinated, not simply being tolerated by the government, but despite the lip service and the smoke screens that they put up and the distractions that they create to take our mind off what might really be the coordinating organization, the government is actually betraying its people,
yes,
consciously and intentionally. And people always talk about those who have dual citizenship as though passports themselves are what lead to treachery or a lack of loyalty to one's country. It's actually ownership of or having monetary interest in other countries where the corporations compete with their home country. That's why the Bushes are such a danger. That's why someone like Trump is really subject to treasonous questions, because their interests, their monetary interests, lie outside of the U.S. territory. Anyway, that was just a thought I wanted to put out in response to your thought for the day, that we do indeed have a mercenary army that is coming in to disrupt and destroy the society as it exists within Western cultures.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And,
if you go back to
by the
that,
way-
if you go back to that story about Judicial Watch, and it lays it right out that this this lady who is going to have to pay Judicial Watch $22,000 was part of this organized group that does nothing but go around and disrupt conservative speaking events.
Yeah, and it's happening in so many different places that it's hard for us to recognize that it's part of a coordinated effort that was started a long time ago. By the way, that caller who called in and talked about the DeVos family from Grand Rapids is a haven. It's like ground zero for the Bible Belt and for the pro-Israel evangelicals. So I question his description of the DeVos family as being nice. I'm sure he's the PR person for the DeVos family, but I would question whether the DeVos family is committed to the interests of the ordinary people of the U.S. of A. Just another.
Well, when you hear some of the horror stories about, no, I'm sorry, I was confusing them with somebody else, so I'm going to pull back at that point. He may have been a PR person. He certainly spoke very well, and he admitted up front that he worked for them. So.
Yeah. So, but he did that in order to claim that he had firsthand knowledge of their niceness. Well, of course, they're nice to the people who work on their behalf and promote their interests. I worked in Grand Rapids for the TV station there, so I have a certain knowledge of the region. We also moored our boat in Bay Haven, which was kind of, so we got to know that region fairly well.
Well,
And,
good. Layla, I'm sorry to do this to you. We got to take a break for commercials. So thank you very much for the information. Thank you for the phone call, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And apparently Fred in Michigan had a response to Layla, so we're going to take his phone call ahead of the others. Fred, what's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I'm not a spokesperson for the DeVosses. I'm a working staff. I'm a subcontractor, and I have worked. And I tell you what, the DeVosses, as far as the amount of money in the residences and everything they spend up in northern Michigan, allows me to live in God's country. So when I say they're nice people, I'm just saying they're checks don't bounce, and they really support a lot of people in northern Michigan. So that's all I'm saying. I've never met them personally because when I'm there, they're not there. Okay? I just know that I've done a lot of work in their homes and what have you as a subcontractor and the builders up here. So we're all very happy that the DeVosses are up here because they provide a lot of jobs for people in northern Michigan. So I was saying they're good people in that respect. But
well, you're sounding a little defensive here, but I was very glad that they didn't find anything with this gratuitous probe into her use of email. I was rooting on her side. I love the fact that she thinks Common Core was not a very good idea, because I don't think it was a very good idea. So I think we're both on the same side on this thing, and we don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I understand the Common Core issue. I've done a lot of educational research. And I was just, again, when Layla said I was the spokesperson for them, I just wanted to kind of clear that up to say that, and Betsy, again, as far as the education issue, I think she has got a lot of really good ideas. But I'm not an employee. I am in certain respects, but I don't work directly for the DeVosses. I work for subcontractors of builders and contractors that do work for them. So we're really glad they're up here, because they spend a lot of money, and I'm up here in God's country only because of the people like them. So I have no animosity, and I know they probably have issues too, but for us in northern Michigan, we're just glad that they come up here, spend a lot of money, and allow us to make a decent living and live up in, we really are, Michael, in God's country. I've got surrounded by the most beautiful lakes in the world that are clear. You can see through them.
Yeah.
Good communities, small communities that everybody knows everybody. You can look people in the eye and say hello and good morning. So it's just a good place to be. I'm thank God for people like the DeVosses, even though there's a lot more up here, the billionaires. But anyways, that's all I have to say. And Layla, I know she's a very smart lady, but I don't work for them as far as a PR person. So
all right. Thank you for the correction there. And we're going to let you go. And boy, the phone lines are loading up here. So let's go back to the top of the list and start with Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. This is just. I'll try to make this quick in response to Layla's call when she was talking about soldiers. I, being someone who's been law school and all that, I understand words have meaning. Words have definitions. We need to be careful about the words we use. And when you look in the Constitution, you find nothing in the Constitution that says anything about maintaining a standing army. Founders were opposed to a standing army. Why? Standing armies are comprised of what? Soldiers. What is a soldier? Simple. The word soldier derives from Middle English word soigneur, from Old French saudir or saudior, meaning mercenary, from solde, meaning shilling, worth, or wage, from sou or sod, shilling. The word also is related to the medieval Latin solidaris, meaning soldier, literally one having pay. And also, a soldier is the man or woman who fights for their government and carries the weapons of war, risking their life in the process. This word comes from the Latin solidus, which is the name of the gold coin used to pay the soldiers who were fought in the Roman army. Soldiers are, by definition, paid mercenaries. And if you think I'm joking, try my theory. Stop paying the men and women of the Army, the Air Force, and the Marines, and see how quick they walk off the battlefield.
Well, that would certainly be a good way to do it. Now, the reason there was no provision for a standing army made for the United States by the Founding Fathers, they'd been living under a standing army prior to the Revolution, and that was the British Regular Forces. And the reason they did make provision for militia was because the militia really did make the difference in terms of winning the Revolution itself. And so they figured having an armed population ready to take care of their country made more sense than a standing army under the control of a single ruler. Much of the same attitude that we find over in Switzerland, where they want everybody to be armed. All the military veterans are allowed to take their military weapons home with them for rapid mobilization if need be. And the idea was that nobody is going to be better motivated to protect the people than the people themselves.
Yep, and it's a whole lot easier moving a couple people from one end of the county to another. It's a whole different story when you're trying to move several hundred people from one state to another. This is why the militia works so well. It's also why standing armies are bad ideas. And again, standing armies are loyal to the one with the coin.
Yep.
And you and I don't pay the coin.
Well, we pay the coin, but we don't get the obedience. Anyway, Art, got to let you go. Got to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back with more phone calls.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go right back to the phones to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
You that gentleman from Michigan?
Yes.
Betsy DeVos, you know, he was the same one along with these other people that tried to cut the Special Olympics funding. Like, right?
I don't remember that part of it, but, you know, I'm not entirely comfortable with the Special Olympics. I mean, I understand on one way where, you know, you want to get these kids out there to have some fun and compete, but on another way, it almost reminds me of back in medieval times where, you know, people would pay to visit the insane asylums and see the deformed and defective, you know, bang their heads against the wall. So I've never been 100% comfortable with the Special Olympics.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying. I mean, I'm not saying it's not like corrupted or anything, but I mean, they don't have anything else. You know what I mean? And she said we'll leave it to the philanthropist people. Well, nobody cares about the people sleeping on the streets, the homeless.
Yeah.
So she's part of the Beltway, Mike. Isn't her brother Eric Prince of like Blackwater?
I
That's
have
her brother.
no idea. I have no idea. But here's an idea. Let's hold a homeless Olympics.
I mean, it's Mike. I don't trust any of these people who in the Beltway in Washington D.C. Like who are linked to these people. I mean, they could be nice people to you, but they're not. You know what I mean? Like it's a show. Like, are the Bushes good or the Clintons? You know what I mean?
Well, it's not a case of are they good or bad. I mean, it's a continuum. They're all kind of bad to one degree or another. And yes, as a matter of fact, Betsy DeVos' brother is in fact Eric Prince.
Yeah, and he's not. I mean,
Small
he's an
world.
assassin, killer for hire.
Talk about a
So,
mercenary.
Oh my God! Hey, Mike, I wanted to talk about if I can switch gears about British Steel. They're like, it seems like they're laying off 25,000 people and they're closing
They're
their
in
doors.
trouble. They're in trouble. They're talking about liquidation
Yeah.
of their assets.
Well, Mike, did you know that China, just in the past 2 years, have used more steel than British Steel have used since basically the 19th century times in terms of the what do you call it, the Industrial Revolution? That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
China's
just
building.
in the last 2 years. I mean, they're building everywhere. That's what I'm saying. Like this whole economic thing is belt in the road. It's not going to work. And
What's
I don't know if you
not going to
knew this,
work?
but this whole attack on China.
Oh yeah.
It's not going to work because Mike, did you know Steve Mnuchin was on the phone with the CEO of Walmart today? He was trying to find.
No, I had not heard that.
He was trying to find alternatives to certain things that they don't want to get from China now. So where are they going to go? To Vietnam? So what does that have to do with making America great again when you're blocking China and you're going to go to Vietnam or Indonesia or Malaysia? It's all a fraud. This is about, like Steve Bannon said, like he said the enemy is China. So did a lot of these other people. That look at as an economic threat because they are.
Yes, they are.
We've fallen behind now. Like we've fallen behind. I
Yes.
mean, to the point where we're in trouble. Like they wouldn't be doing all this if we weren't in trouble. They're 3 years ahead in like
China is not doing anything to us. Let's be very clear about it. I know that's the propaganda. China is just being China. And they've always been builders and innovators going back thousands of years. That's their culture, so it's not surprising they continue to do that today. They're building enormous buildings. They built the Three Gorges Dam. They're building the Belt and the Road, and they're just taking care of China, and the United States is slipping behind them. And since our politicians can't figure out how to revive our manufacturing and so forth, the idea is, China's evil, China's bad, we're going to bomb them and wreck their economy so that we can again claim we're number one.
And I see a lot of hate on the zero heads about get them chinks. We'll rebuild. I like how people say we're going to rebuild our factories. I don't know, Mike. Do you own a factory? I don't. I don't know how to build an iPhone. Yeah. We're all in this together, but nobody owns a factory to know how to build squat.
Building a
It's
factory.
not gonna happen.
Building a factory isn't easy because designing factories, that was what my father did for most of his life. He was a graduate of MIT and he got an advanced degree from USC. And that's what he'd do, is go on in and lay out the floor plan for all the machinery to manufacture what was being manufactured. And it's a very different task than software engineering, where you put it together and, oh, there's a bug, we can go back and we can change that around, and oh, there's another bug. No, it's got to work right on the first try. So it was a very difficult job. The problem is that a lot of Americans who know how to put together factories or who know how to manufacture high tech have been lured away to other countries where their skills are much more respected and better compensated. Our biggest failure as a nation going back to the 1980s was that Wall Street, which was filled with all these MBAs who had no respect for the process of making the products, basically turned their noses up and said, well, we'll just ship all the manufacturing to China. They'll make it for us cheap. We'll all make a lot more money. And our manufacturing went into decline. Factories went out of business. And yeah, we literally gave away the one thing that made us a world power in World War II, and that was our manufacturing.
And we're never going to get it back, Mike, because it's too late. I hate to tell people, we're going to have to be either place second place to China's first place, or it's going to be a world war. That's it, because we don't have the time to make back the loss. You know what I mean? They're moving ahead.
Yes.
Like you know, and Mike, before I get off the phone, the minerals, the rare earth minerals,
Rare earth elements.
45 million. The rare earth, they have 45 million metric tons in reserve. We got 1.5.
Yes.
And I was reading, some of our rare earth are contaminated with thorium, which is radioactive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a beta emitter.
Yeah, so I just don't see us. People think we can come out ahead because we don't make anything. I mean, that's not a winning strategy.
No, it really isn't. I mean, Wall Street sort of got into the idea that if they just took a bunch of cash and shook it back and forth hard enough, it would start to grow magically all by itself. And of course, that doesn't work.
Yeah, because we think we can just keep printing money forever. Well, by 2024, the post office runs out of cash. Your country's broke. That's it. And I hate to break this to people, but China buys your debt. Like, they have 1.5 or 1.2 trillion in bonds they purchase. The world buys our debt, not just China, but they buy our way of life. I mean, it ain't going to work out very well.
Yeah, and our public lands are now being pledged as collateral on all that debt. If the U.S. government has a major default and collapses, you're going to have a lot of foreigners knocking on the borders and saying, look, we own the Grand Staircase Escalante Monument. Because you defaulted on the loan for which that was pledged as collateral. So it's going to get really ugly. Anyway, listen, Dustin, I need to let you go here. I need to switch over to Nathan in California. Nathan, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I've got a real bad line. I'm up here in Northern California. We've had a lot of rain. Real quick before I get to the Layla question I had, keep your eye on the Oroville Dam. I won't get into it. Some people say it's good to go. Other people say it has lots of problems. Just keep an eye on it. And the other quick thing I wanted to mention, the Silk Road stuff, the belt from China to Great Britain is about 7,500 miles. And basically, it's 2.5 times more expensive to ship stuff from China to Great Britain than it is by sea. Plus, you're dealing with the fact that the size of the trains and the containers are only 20 feet, whereas on a ship it's like 40 feet. So this notion that, the Belt Road is going to save everybody or whatever, or save China, is not true. It's only going to affect about 2 or 3% of the goods, and that's the goods that need to be expedited. So that one quick thing there. Anyway, on Layla's last phone call, I would like to know, what are the specific investments that Trump has overseas that could cause him to be considered treasonous? I mean, to me, that is an irresponsible statement. That is an insult to our president. Just because he may have some investments overseas doesn't mean that he is a treasonous person. That is ridiculous. And can you think of any investments he may have overseas to where he should be considered treasonous?
Well, first of all, people keep misusing that word treason, because treason is defined as giving aid and comfort to an enemy in time of war. Now, at the moment, at least officially, we're not really at war with China or anybody else yet, although we seem to be headed in that direction. So I think the issue may be that Trump may have some overseas investments which at worst are going to put him into a poor light.
And a couple of weeks ago, she called in and she's saying, well, Trump's, from the Dutch word, whatever, you know, Trump is Jewish or whatever. He is not Jewish. I mean, he's half Scotch and he's half German, Bulgarian or whatever. And she's talking about, oh, we need to overthrow Donald Trump. And that is absolute nonsense. And for your information, Trump went to church at Norman Vincent Peale's church in New York City with his father and family.
Yes.
The guy who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. And if you don't understand what Donald Trump is all about, go listen to a Norman Vincent Peale lecture. They're 20, 30 minutes long. He talks about how positive thinking can do wonders for you. He even credits Norman Vincent Peale when he was, you know, in that big bankruptcy problem, how the power of positive thinking helped him get out of a real big jam. And so, you know, when Layla calls in and she says all this stuff and just makes these blanket statements, you know, I can't handle it. And you can't expect anybody that's a Trump supporter to, you know, take that with a grain of salt. I think it's insulting. And the only other thing I'm going to say, and I'll get off because I've got a terrible line here, the best prediction that I ever heard about Donald Trump was at the convention. They were talking to Ed Rensi. Ed Rensi is the former president of McDonald's. And they asked him, what do you think about Donald Trump being the nominee? And he said he thought it was a real good choice because he's a great businessman, et cetera, et cetera. But he said he's probably going to make some mistakes, and there may be times when he tramps all over himself. That's his exact words. And I
Good
think
description.
Overall, yeah. Well, I think Ed Rensi was right, because there is room on both sides for criticism of Donald Trump. But, you know, being a Trump fan doesn't mean that I support everything he does. I'm just pulling for him to be successful. And I just hope that the negativity that's on your show will calm down a little bit. God, it's terrible. I mean, how can you expect anybody who's a Trump supporter under those circumstances to listen to the show and feel good about it? You had a guy from Brazil calling in 3 weeks ago, and he's talking about somebody who died from Paxil, you know? And he's blaming Trump. He says, I thought Trump was going to come in here and fix everything and whatever. And Donald Trump's being blamed for a death because of Paxil. And it's just, and you didn't even defend him, Michael. It's not Donald Trump's fault.
Look, I think you need to look back at 2016. Look back at 2016 at how I supported Donald Trump and opposed Hillary Clinton. But Trump has become a disappointment. And at this point, everybody's got an opinion about Donald Trump, and they're welcome to share it on this show as long as they're polite and respectful about it. So,
half empty. The glass is half full. The glass is half empty. Your show is the glass is half empty. And, you know, that's where I'm at. Anyway, Michael, thanks for letting me vent. I'll get off this staticky line and take care. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to James in North Carolina. And James, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mike. Right at the beginning of the show today, you were mentioned the fact that this federal judge has ruled against Trump on his financial records, and I'm assuming also his tax returns.
This was specifically a ruling about the tax returns, and the judge ruled the way he did because apparently there are two laws on the books that say that Congress can just examine tax returns of any federal official, and that federal officials must make their tax records available for inspection, which I think is a good idea. Why Trump is so upset about his tax returns, I don't know. As I said, my gut is telling me it may be more an embarrassment than anything actually illegal. We know that Trump has been through some bankruptcies, and obviously that is something that looks really bad if you're a candidate running for re-election in 2020.
I looked up at those laws, and they seem to be pretty clear that the Congress does have the right to obtain those tax returns. There's a gentleman by the name of Peter Hendrickson, who is probably the foremost income tax specialist or expert in the United States. And he's written several books, and he actually proved that there is no such thing as a correct amount of income tax. In other words, it is impossible for you to actually compute the correct amount of tax that you owe according
because the tax
to the
code
tax
is such a mess.
Yeah, and this is why if Congress does get a hold of Donald Trump's tax returns, we're never going to hear the end of it. It'll go on forever.
No, we never will. And James, we have to take another commercial break. Thank you very much for the information. We'll be right back after these few words.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
If you've got the money, honey, we
got the bombs, we'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bomb. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, getting on back to the war zones. Tensions obviously are increasing between the United States and Iran. Iranians are basically readying for war against the U.S. Great Satan. And Khamenei is prophesizing total Persian victory. I'm not so sure about that one. But there is no question this will not be a slam dunk for the U.S. to do. Iran has the home court advantage. And we're talking about a country with a population of 80 million people, 3 times the size of Iraq, and a military that has been preparing for a war with the United States for decades. Now, yesterday we were talking about how there'd been this war game 17 years ago where the U.S. Navy exercised against a simulated Iranian force using Iranian-sized boats and Iranian tactics, and the U.S. Navy did not do very well. So here's the reality. Iran can close the Strait of Hormuz, and they don't even need to sink ships in it. They have sea mines. Iran manufactures thousands and thousands of sea mines. They've got drones. They've got jihadist militias. They've got missiles that are capable of striking U.S. warships. If the U.S. invades Iran, Iran is going to make the United States and its allies in the region pay a heavy price. Iran is probably going to lose. Let's not kid ourselves. But it will be possibly a Pyrrhic victory. Article coming on out from the original antiwar.com. The time has come for patriotic dissent. Stopping war with Iran is essential. And they start out with this quote that goes all the way back to the anti-war protests against Vietnam. What if they called a war and no one came? So this article is going on in and saying, we have to understand this war is unnecessary. It's irrational. It does not serve the American people or the American nation. It's all about oil revenues. It's all about Iran's geopolitical rivalry with Israel in the region. And I do wish people would be getting out in the streets against all these wars. But corporate media keeps distracting us with the Kardashians and the impeachment talk now and abortion. They don't want you paying attention to what the U.S. government is doing with your money, with your children, in your name. They don't. That's the whole point of propaganda. So, apparently, actually, there's the music. So we're going to take a break for station identification, and we will be right back and after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. The phone lines are open again, 800-313-9443. So apparently there is this bipartisan letter signed by nearly 400 members of the United States Congress that is calling on President Trump to remain militarily engaged within Syria, while claiming to be deeply concerned about extremists in the country. And you know how you recognize the extremists. They're the ones who are pinwheeling through the air after a Russian airstrike here. So Trump had announced to pull out from Syria in December, had disavowed it by February, and the lawmakers are out there saying how enthusiastic about the Syrian war they are. Well, fine, round them all up, give them rifles and parachutes, and send them on over there. The really dangerous part about this article is the letter says the U.S. has treated Syria as something of a proxy war, and the letter suggests they do away with all the pretext and just admit this is a war against Iran and Russia over Syria. I cannot think of anything more dangerous than that. We do not want to get into a real force-on-force war with Russia. And again, winning and losing becomes irrelevant in a nuclear age. Everybody is going to get pounded. All right, we're going to grab a telephone call from Dan in Illinois. Aloha, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I got a good one for you. Now, back in the early 2000s, I was always reading the Wall Street Journal, and they had a story in there about how the Reagan administration had been selling chips and computer boards to Russia. But the chips they were selling to Russia were game chips, chips that couldn't translate Russian, and motherboards that would destroy the system when you turn the machines on.
Well, wait a minute. The chips the chips don't translate language. That's done in the software. So already the story is suspect.
Well, that was part of it, but they had the motherboards that would fry out the systems. So that may be what they're going after Huawei for, and that they're afraid that they might start doing that, put it in our systems.
Well, I think the reason they're going after Huawei is because as the world transitions to 5G, there's a lot of money on the line. And Huawei basically is in first place. They make very reliable equipment at very affordable prices. Already we're seeing European countries are saying, yeah, we're going to have Huawei do our 5G infrastructure. And the United States, it's once again a case of the United States cannot compete with China. And so they badmouth them and they sanction them and they tariff them and they basically throw a tantrum, roll around on the ground, kick and scream and say it's unfair, China's cheating the system. But, you know, China has spent decades and a vast fortune building up their technology and manufacturing sectors and their infrastructure. The United States government has bankrupted this nation, spending the money on Israel, Wall Street, and war. And that's why we're in
yeah.
this position. Even if we got a president and a government that said, yeah, let's try and bring ourselves up to the same level as China, they don't have all that much to work with. And so you've got the war hawks saying, well, the solution is easy. We find a way to destroy China, and then we can say we're number one in the world again.
Yeah, Huawei isn't the only company. Thing is, what I'm saying is, I think they're afraid of getting tainted equipment from over there as far as that, where they couldn't be able to catch it.
You mean like we get from
You know?
Intel and AMD in this country?
Yeah. But I mean, where they could, literally destroy everything. Everybody's phone goes out, or it's like I said, it's over 20 years since I read the story.
Yeah, well, that kind of fear-mongering, and that's exactly what it is, fear-mongering to try and steer the economic climate. And it really didn't work because 20 years ago, you had all of these CEOs who had started out as MBAs, and they just said, yeah, let's let all the manufacturing go on over to China, Japan, and Taiwan, and we'll make more money.
Oh, yeah, they got their tax breaks and bonuses and stock options and all that stuff.
Yeah, they did.
But that story also coincided. I don't know if you remember that one speech that Reagan gave at that dinner where he said he had outlawed the Soviet Union.
Yeah, I remember that speech, and people are kind of saying you can't get up there and outlaw another country.
Well, no, I think it coincided with what he was doing as far as shipping them bad chips and boards and everything like that, because they found out a lot of their equipment was faulty. And I also remember reading a story back about that time where the Soviet Union had sold all their gold that they had at the time, which means that they were bankrupt and falling apart.
Well, because they overspent on war. I mean, the Reagan Strategic Defense Initiative basically spooked the Russians, and they just went on a spending spree to try and find ways to counter all of the threatened weapons of the Star Wars Initiative. Very few of which ever actually materialized. A huge amount of money. And by the way, the United States borrowed and spent so much money on the Star Wars Initiative that we went from being the world's greatest creditor nation to the world's greatest debtor nation, all in the space of the 12 years of Reagan Bush Sr.
Yeah, they you do one plan and the other, and it backfires, and one plan works, So and you usually end up getting screwed over in the long run. And
that's definitely true. Anyway, Dan, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates rejoining the network. Now, normally the rule here at whatreallyhappened.com is 1 call per day per caller, but since we've been having this dialogue kind of building up here, I want to go back to Layla in Canada. And Layla, I'm sure you've got plenty to say.
Actually, nothing that I haven't said in the previous call, and that is that global interest, global monetary interests, has not necessarily served the interests of the Americans. Now, whether the DeVos family is investing in the UP in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, my husband is from there. I also worked in the Upper Peninsula for the PBS TV station, so I know how deprived they were when the when the U.S. military pulled out of the UP, and the mining industry, CCI, also pulled out of the UP. So definitely anybody whose checks don't bounce in the UP is a welcome organization. Now, I don't necessarily think badly of the DeVos. They were the Amway people. I just dislike the role of evangelicals in our politics. That's what I dislike, and their loyalty is not to the interests of the U.S. and its various non-religious groups. However, DeVos is part of RDV, which is a global acquisition and finance merger company, Global Private Equity. I sent you the link right after I called if you wanted to check it out.
Okay.
They have ventures, economic ventures globally. They so they're not probably not very different from someone like Mitt Romney. And that's the thing that I remember from when we were in spending a lot of time in the lower Michigan. It's not necessarily that I was impugning their integrity or their ability to pay their bills. And anyone who benefits economically from them certainly does have an interest in promoting the company. So I don't think it was necessary for him to call back. And this would not have been necessary. But I'm really tired of, I make a comment and then somebody has to disparage it in one way or another. I do think that American
Welcome to my world.
That yes, I understand what you're going through. It's you and I've listened to some of the unfair slings and arrows you've had to endure.
Yes.
And I admire you for standing up to them. But what I do question is corporations that got their start, their wealth in the U.S., then benefiting foreign nations where those corporations are competing with Americans and have put them out of work. Now, the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, is benefiting from DeVos. That's nice. That's only one of their many, many, many holdings. Because if you go to their website, just do a search on DeVos Global Acquisitions, and then you can see their wealth management and how it's globally, it's primarily globally focused. I also resent the role of the evangelicals. And this is because they're the ones who stand behind, who have made Israel's strength possible. And Israel has destroyed much of what the Western culture was built upon. So whether it's Christian culture or whatever, it basically comes out of the philosophical enlightenment, whether or not it was motivated by Christian beliefs. Now, I've said before, I am not a religious person, but I do believe that the Christian ideals, principles put forward by Christianity, are good for a society to live together harmoniously. So thank you for the opportunity to respond this one time. Thanks, Mike, and keep up your good work.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, Tom. Yes, Michael, your last caller is wonderful. That was a great thing when she said at the very end there about the Christians. And like I was telling you yesterday about even Saving Private Ryan, the movie, the Christians that went to war in World War II, there wouldn't be a Jewish state of Israel if it weren't for the Christian men in this country who went over there to fight. But I'll leave that for another subject. And I don't want to get into World War II today because I know you probably don't want to hear about it, but she made a wonderful point there. But exactly, Michael, what I want to say is this Nancy Pelosi and all these Democrats, I call them the Communist Party now, they're going after Donald Trump again. They already had spent $40 million on the Mueller investigation, Michael, and you know he was not found guilty. What they're doing is absolutely absurd. What's got to happen here, what Donald Trump needs to do, is turn the tables.
I agree.
The Democrats are supporting. He should be attacking the Democrats for what they're doing, Michael, with sanctuary cities. There's no such thing as sanctuary cities. If one American gets murdered, I don't care if they bring in 10 million illegals and one American gets murdered by this one of those 10 million, all of them should be deported. That's one too many Americans being murdered in our country by an illegal alien. Okay, you had Molly Tibbetts, you had Kay Steinle, and on and on and on and on. There's so many names you can't. Now, these angel moms and dads, Donald Trump should be marching them into Washington every day, turn the attention with the media to the angel moms and the fathers of this country. If Donald Trump did that, he would win the next election in a massive landslide because no other politician or no other any man who ever was held office as president has done what Trump done when it comes to immigration, Michael, as far as, hey, look, I'm bringing men and women in here who's had their family members murdered by an illegal alien. Now, Michael, if that was your family or any other guy who would listen to this audience right now, had one of their family members murdered by an illegal alien, they would not be two happy campers. I can tell you that. Now, Donald Trump needs to turn the attention of this Mueller crap and this Russia collusion nonsense into what's going on in the invasion of Pelosi and the Democrat Party, what they're doing to this country with this illegal horde of invaders of coming into our country. They're not coming here through the proper channels. They're coming here illegally.
Yes.
What does these people not understand? Okay, there's laws already on the books that say these people here illegally. They should be deported out of here until they can we don't even know who these people are. And they're not the Central Americans. They're people coming from all over the world coming sneaking through that border.
Yes.
Through Mexico. No, this has got to stop, and Trump has got to turn the guns on with turn his cannons or whatever you want to call it, whatever his modus operandi to get this thing taken care of. He's got to do it because these angels of moms and dads should be marched on every news network every day, 24 hours a day. Like One American News I told you about, every hour on the hour they give the immigration figures. It's staggering. It's mind-blowing. You got an illegal alien that can come here and get a free $400,000 operation, and American citizens can't? And you got to give them Section 8 housing, but you can't give Americans that are hard.
Well, the Section 8 housing that's now done. Trump has shut that part of it down, but again, it's a half measure. Trump really needs to put on the presidential brass knuckles because it's very obvious that the Democrats in Congress are getting ready to try and impeach him, and Trump really should have gone on the offensive after the Mueller report came on out, basically saying there was no collusion with Russia. He should have gone on the offensive against the corporate media and everybody who was involved in that whole Russiagate hoax here. And he can't be gentle about it because if he is, they're just going to turn around and come back with another plan. There'll be some other story. The taxes are probably going to be the next one.
Michael, that's another thing. They're running ramshot on President Trump. You know what I heard today about President Trump? Now get this, Michael. I don't know if you've heard this or anybody in your audience heard this, but I've heard through a couple other channel news sources that Donald Trump in his lifetime, okay, this is over his lifetime, has paid over $900 million in taxes. That's almost $1 billion this man has paid in taxes to the federal government. What is enough is enough. I mean, this guy's paid almost $900 million in federal withholding tax in the story of his life.
It's not withholding tax; it's business tax. I mean, the tax returns in question are not just for Donald Trump personally, but for a lot of his business empire. And so I don't know what the Democrats expect to find there. Like I said, they're probably not going to find anything illegal because Trump has, can afford to hire the very best accountants to make sure everything's on the up and up. But what they're hoping to do is find something they can embarrass him with. But I got to tell you, Donald Trump thinks that Twitter account of his is his, broadsword. But it isn't. It's great that he's keeping us informed as to his point of view without the filter of corporate media. But he really does need to become more proactive in terms of dealing with all of this nonsense coming out of the Congress.
That I agree with. And, Michael, Trump gives his whole salary, his presidential salary, to charities. He gives up his whole salary. He doesn't even take a salary for being president.
Yes.
And somebody said that he pays for the fuel for Air Force One. He puts like $300,000-$400,000 a year out of his own money for the fuel for the jetliners that he flies around in. So, I mean, I don't know.
I hadn't heard that part of it.
Michael. Yes. Michael, I have one more thing, and I got the other call, but this is very important. I talked to two Haitian gentlemen today here in South Florida, and they told me that they moved out of New Jersey because there's a big Haitian community up there, and they're all moving because the taxes are so high they're coming out. And this one gentleman I met today, he's telling me that all the Haitians up there in New Jersey, New York, most of them voted for Trump because they know Hillary was stealing money out of Haiti when the earthquake happened, her and Bill Clinton. And they literally ripped off Haiti, according to this guy, for $45 million. And Hillary's, what is that thing she has, like the trust fund or her
the Clinton Foundation.
The Clinton Foundation. She stole $45 million, according to these two Haitian gentlemen I met today, for her foundation. And they ripped the Haitians off big time. So a lot of Haitians, even in South Florida, they voted for Trump last election. So Hillary didn't get the Haitian vote.
No, she definitely did not. And I understand they're having massive riots in Haiti right now. The U.S. government, of course, siding with the regime. And so, again, more discord across the globe. Okay, anything else there?
It's unbelievable, Michael.
What?
Now, Michael, one more thing. With this Congress, the Democratic Congress, I'd just like to ask your opinion. Maybe you could tell the audience. what is your crystal ball? What do you see happening with this immigration situation with the border and all that? What is going to be the total outcome in the next 2 years before the election? What about the walls? Are going to be construction going to keep going on, or what are the Democrats are trying to infrastructure? They don't want to have infrastructure. They totally don't want Trump to build a wall. They want to keep flooding this country. What do you think is your take on 2020 as far as the election? Is the wall going to get built? If Trump were to lose the election, you know the wall's not going to get built with a guy like Biden. He's going to allow the Chinese to have everything they want. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't know what's gonna
it
happen.
is.
What do
No,
you think, Michael?
unfortunately, the immigrants are going to keep on pouring in, and by the time we get to the 2020 election, there may be as many as 40 million inside this country, and it's all putting added strain on our economy. We're looking at serious food shortages in the near future.
Yes.
And the Democrats are welcoming in all these millions of illegal immigrant mouths who are going to be competing for a very limited food supply. They're not really thinking what's best for the country as a whole. Anyway, Tom, got to let you go. Tom, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phone lines to Jeff in Minnesota. Aloha, Jeff. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, it's kind of cold and damp here. I don't think they're going to get the corn going. But anyway, there was an incident that happened last Friday on the light rail station at the University of Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we reported on that one.
And it didn't make, well, see, I don't read the paper, but I didn't hear about it on the radio. And so
it didn't get any coverage. Certainly not in the national media, and very little in the Minnesota media.
Because this is the same thing. These people are getting rulers now. All we do is take care of them and give them everything and neglect the city. I'm an Uber driver, and I'll give you an example how bad it is in downtown Minneapolis. There's the famous 8th and Hennepin Avenue, the entertainment district, just around the corner from Uncle Sam's nightclub, or First Avenue, where Prince made his movie. There's a theater, and it has a couple of apartments in it. Okay, so I got an order to pick up a guy at 3:30 in the morning there, and I got there and I called him, and he's going to come out. Meanwhile, one guy comes over to my curb on the passenger side. Hey, buddy, you got a smoke? And then at the same time, a guy walks over 3 lanes across the street, wants to know if they have $4 or $5 for him. So the guy comes down, gets in the car, and he apologizes that he only has to go 4 blocks to work because he's a butcher at Whole Foods and he goes in early. And he's been held up and had his cell phone and, card stolen twice in the last several weeks. And the deal is there's so much riffraff downtown, you never see a policeman out of the car interacting with them. And it's the same thing in St. Paul. It's getting bad here. And so I don't know what to do.
Well, we're seeing it all over the country, especially in the urban areas. It's just deteriorating. In fact, it's gotten so bad that the state of Illinois is actually talking about literally cutting Chicago off and letting it go off and be its own little statelet.
Well, I heard that Massachusetts was spending half their money on supporting the immigrants. It's, I'm an Uber guy. I pick up a lady who's been waiting 8.5 years for a townhouse for her and her daughter, and she's on the list, top of the list, and they call her and say, I'm sorry, we just got 2 new people from out overseas, and they have to have those units. But we have this nice unit that a guy died in that lived there 30 years ago. Would you like that? And see, that's the deal. It's all, you can't get an honest answer for an American who needs services. So anyway, I'll let you go.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot. And I'm sorry to hear about that, but I'm hearing and reading a lot of similar stories all across the country. And, we're seeing that kind of stuff out here in Hawaii. And yeah, if you bring the third world into your country, you bring third world problems into your country. And that's exactly what's going on here. And just like we're seeing in Europe, the media is being actively discouraged by, if not the government, certainly the globalists, not to report on this stuff so that people don't stand up and say, enough. All we get is the propaganda about, it's humanitarianism. These poor people, they're flocking to our shores to escape wars. Little reminder, the wars that we all started. And the goal is to blend everybody together into one bland population, but people don't naturally blend together. And I think this incident on the light rail with the Somalis is basically proof of that. And I don't know why these guys were acting out, whether they were robbing people or they just wanted to have a sense of their tribal identity back and go on out and just attack the others. But we're seeing more and more of this all across the country. Okay, getting on back to the war zones here, turning to Syria. The U.S. State Department has accused the Syrian government of a recent chemical attack and threatened it with a quick and appropriate response, while admitting it has little information to substantiate the allegations. And of course, this is coming on the heels of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons report that came out and said that the so-called chemical attack in Douma was clearly staged. It didn't really happen. They brought in some cylinders as props. They just put them on the ground. They got out their video cameras and they shot the thing, and that was it. So over at Sputnik News, yet again, we're getting a warning from the Russian Ministry of Defense The terrorists in Syria are planning chemical attacks in the Idlib de-escalation zone, as well as in the west of the Aleppo province. And they're going to stage these provocations and say, oh, look, Assad did it, Assad did it, Assad did it. But again, why would Assad do something like that? He's all but won the war. And he knows a chemical attack is the one thing that would allow the United States to come on back in and re-escalate the conflict. Assad has everything to lose and nothing to gain with a chemical weapons attack. And by the way, have you noticed these chemical weapons attacks always hit women and children to garner the most sympathy? They never hit the rebel soldiers. All right, we got to take a break for commercials. We got another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And before we go back to the phones, just got an email here referencing the Uber caller from Minnesota. saying what he can do is get a concealed carry permit and carry a gun. We have the same problem here in Seattle. And in point of fact, I've been hearing more and more how Uber and Lyft drivers are becoming targets. And very often somebody will call and say, come on over, I need to be picked up. And the driver shows up and they get robbed or their car gets stolen or who knows what all else. It's the wild, wild west out there. Now, I don't know what the gun laws are in Minnesota as far as getting a concealed carry permit. But yeah, it would be a really good idea, I think. Okay, back to the phones to Sherry in Texas. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, regional conflicts, they're going to happen. I still don't think there's going to be a big bomb in a world war. There's going to be a lot of little skirmishes and things that people are going to try to initiate, but it's just going to be regional conflicts, not a big blow everything up thing. Here and abroad.
Well, I hope you're right.
Too. But remember what Trump said, and I was just looking at this because I scribble down things. I don't always have time to go over my notes. It was May 14 that you were having a lot of trouble. It's so much better now. Everything seems to have cleared up a lot. I'm getting the show so well. 17 months. Now, that means from 2019 to 2020, and let's just count from May. That brings us to December of 2020.
Yes.
So the rest of this year, he's got plans to everything. Turn, there is a season. I mean, if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for Trump. And I really think this is it. He's going by what his attorneys tell him. You know who I think? I got to try not to get off the track here, but I've got to say, I really like Dr. Ben Carson. I think that's someone Trump could work with. I think that's someone Trump could trust, and I think he's kind of Trump-ish. You know, they're doing the same things to him that they used to do to Trump, but that's just an aside. I think he's someone I hope he can work with in the future. But here in the 17 months, what they're doing when they get him in these detention centers, they know they can recognize him. They're getting DNA. They're getting anything they can to identify him. And like Trump said in his talk, I don't know if people heard that. I know it was early in the morning. You hadn't heard it yet. On the day that you were talking about what's he going to do with these illegals. They're not going to be able to get a job. They're not going to. The people are going to be fined terribly if they try to hire them. They're not going to have
that's
a car.
the problem.
They're not going to
That's
be able
the
to
problem.
vote.
Employers are, with very few exceptions. I mean, there have been a couple of cases, but there's no widespread enforcement going on of Title VIII. And so, yeah, these illegal immigrants are, in fact, if they're not just settling in and living off of welfare, they're basically competing for jobs with legal American citizens. And we have about 100 million legal Americans unable to find work for months, if not years.
Right.
And they're not counted in the unemployment calculation. It's another way of cheating the numbers here. But it's really spinning out of control. And I know you're feeling very positive about Donald Trump, you know, that he's got 17 more months and he can turn around and he can start do it. No, the entire system is set against him. And
Yes.
if you think back to the history of the Merovingian kings, where they called them the enfeebled rulers, I think we've got one now.
But if you have in your employee someone that is identified as being someone who came here illegally, then you're going to have to get rid of them because they're going to come after you. They're going to be able to recognize these guys. You're not going to be, you know, right now we go vote or they say, I remember getting a call from Beto, whatever. I got a call. It has to do with the fact that it has to do with the jury system. I was asked to be on the jury system for the next 8 years, and I didn't want to do it because it's all online now and seniors are getting scammed. I quit voting. And that's why I became a spokesperson for Trump. That's on the side. But what it is now that I don't vote, I got one of those calls. I guess I was on the list of someone you could send a voting thing to, and you know we'll come pick them up for you.
You mean a registration?
Yeah, I wish I kept it on my answering machine. I really wish I had. I've kept something else on there that I've reported that. You know, that's the nice thing about an answering machine. They can say things sometimes, people, and they can incriminate themselves, something fierce. But anyway, yeah, no, I couldn't vote. I told the lady, I said, if I have to send this thing in online, and I said, it was a whole long conversation. That's something for another day. I said, then I won't be, I said, I'm sending it in by mail for the last time because I liked being on juries. I was even a foreman once, and I love this. I studied court reporting. I love it, but I had to say no more voting for me. So I'm going to send it in for this last time.
Okay,
by
Sherry.
mail because seniors.
Sherry,
yeah, I'm finished.
Sherry,
But
is
just
this
remember,
going? Sherry, is this going somewhere? You just seem.
Yeah, it is. It's a timing thing.
So
It's-
sum up.
It's the people that are database now are going to come up as we can't let you vote, but it won't be till the end of the year, and then things will start turning around. The regional conflicts will continue. We may even catch a bomb somewhere, but we're not going to go in. Well, I won't predict. I'll just say it's going to get better as far as the illegals because we're going to be able to spot them. You see, we're going to be able to spot them. There's so much
How?
corruption right now, but it's going to end.
I mean, we can spot people who are, clearly from a foreign country, but we don't know if they're legal or illegal, unless somebody goes up and says, I need to see your ID. And there's a huge booming business in fake IDs for the
No,
illegal
no.
immigrants. Getting on back to the
Beyond
war
that.
issue, we're in the middle of World War III. They're trying to do it in slow motion in the hope that we're not really going to notice, but it is still a world war.
Okay, I say when it comes in the new year, in 2021, when these illegals that came in illegally and didn't do it like they should, everyone that's been in these camps and things around and they've taken them in, they have data on them. And when they go to vote, they won't be able to. When they go to get a job, they won't be able to. It's not going to happen now. It'll be after
Not
17
if they're
months,
using
which
fake
brings you-
IDs. Okay.
It's not gonna, but yeah, you can't argue with a retina scan, Mike. You can't argue with the DNA. They'll take blood on them. I mean, yeah, it was easy for them to try to target me, but they're not going to be able to do this anymore. Trump might be out of office completely, but he's still going to work. Well, I won't go into that. It's too long.
Yeah,
I know.
mean, see, the
But-
idea is right now. I mean, they're talking about facial recognition technology and how it's being deployed in all these cities. It has a very poor track record for accuracy. I still don't know how good retinal scans are or are not, but the cost of putting that all out there, again, it's more strain on our economy. The best solution would be to close that border and stop the flood of illegal immigrants. But so far, that border is still wide open. I think they've built maybe 2 miles of fence so far with all that money that Trump got allocated to the project. Anyway, Sherry, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go. We need to get back to the news here. Apparently, some 500 Nusa Front militants accompanied by 7 tanks and 30 pickup trucks armed with mounted heavy machine guns launched 3 major offensive against government troops in Idlib province, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. And the counterattack focused on the town of Kafr Nabuda, which was recently captured by the Syrian government. Militants also launched a missile attack on Russia's Hmyr air base on Wednesday, but 9 of the missiles were shot down. The other 8 did not reach their targets. So here you have Syrian rebels attacking the Russian air base. It's a major escalation. Meanwhile, the army is repelling a large militant attack on Kafr Nabuda. And apparently Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the former branch of al-Qaeda in Syria, and its Turkish-backed allies launched an attack from the direction of al-Habit and Kusaybiyah in northwestern Hama on positions of the Syrian Arab army. The attack started with at least 1 successful attack by a suicide vehicle carrying improvised explosive devices near Syrian Arab army positions. And militant group infantry was backed up by several rocket launchers and battle tanks. This is basically continuing on the previous story here. So, boy, there's a lot going on over there. Here's a little interesting article. It's coming out of Consortium News, and it's talking about how the war in Libya has spurred terrorism in no less than 14 different countries. This in the 8 years since NATO's war on Libya in 2011, where Gaddafi was killed, the golden hour went away, and Libya's oil was put back on the market only for the US dollar. So terrorism has been spreading. That goes back to Libya. It's the legacy of the overthrow of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi kept the place kind of calm, but in his absence, you've got all these warlords running around. They're fighting with each other. It's causing a lot of damage. But ultimately, the blame for all of this falls on British Prime Minister David Cameron, French President Nicolas Sarkozy, and U.S. President Barack Obama. And yet, holding these leaders accountable for the decision to go to war is as distant as ever. Well, the United States and Turkey are still going back and forth over that S-400 deal, and it's reaching the tantrum stage here. Turkey has already said to the United States, the S-400 deal is already done. You know, it's signed. We're getting the pink slip. We're getting the training manuals. We're already looking to Russia for the S-500. But the U.S. is still out there demanding that Turkey pull out of the S-400 deal by the end of the first week of June, or face severe consequences, including sanctions. Basically, the United States wants Turkey to break their contract with Russia. Apparently, from the United States' point of view, breaking an agreement is no big deal anymore. So the consequences include removing Turkey from the F-35 jet program, forfeiting 100 promised F-35 jets originally designated for the country, and imposing sanctions. Given the performance of the F-35, that might not be such a bad thing. The other way they're putting pressure on Turkey is they're demanding that he honor his promise to return occupied Syrian territory. And this goes back to January of 2018 and the Olive Branch operation, which was done to oust the Kurds from the outskirts of Afrin, as well as to create a buffer zone along the Syrian-Turkish border. Now, these actions were criticized by a lot of people, but Ankara hastened to declare that this was only temporary, and Erdogan promised to return these territories to Syrians. Now, the fighting stopped on March 20th of 2018. However, it doesn't look like Turkey is going to leave that territory anytime soon, and I hate to say I told you so, but no, actually, I rather do enjoy it, saying I told you so. Story coming out of Russia Insider. U.S. diplomacy is still messed up, and Trump and Pompeo are hamstrung by this Russiagate idiocy. And they are. That's the problem when you come up with some kind of a fraud or propaganda or a lie. You have to stick to it. Even if everybody knows it's a lie, you're forced to go along with it in your negotiations with other countries, even countries that know it's all a lie anyway. And so Trump and Pompeo are still dealing with all of that Russiagate idiocy, and it means that our relationship with Russia continues to decline, and that is a bad thing. Another story from Russia Insider talking about the U.S. rivalry with China and Russia and everyone else is merely a sideshow. We're dealing with a civilizational crisis. And apparently, Beijing this week hosted the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations under the direct supervision of President Xi Jinping, taking place amid an Asian culture carnival. And in the keynote speech, the Chinese leader basically stressed that one civilization forcing itself upon another is foolish and disastrous. I guess he's been watching Game of Thrones. In Xi's concept of a dialogue of civilizations, he referred to the New Silk Roads or the Belt and Road Initiative as programs that have expanded the channels for communication exchanges. And Xi's composure and rationality presents a stark contrast to Donald Trump's bullying, Make America Great Again campaign. So we're looking at geopolitical, geoeconomic war. It's cold and getting colder. The U.S. national security strategy says point blank, China is a strategic competitor and must be contained, no holds barred, on all fronts, economic, military, and most of all, technological. And they're talking specifically about the coming 5G revolution and the fact that Huawei is poised to make a great deal of money off of it, and other companies are struggling to catch up. And you've probably seen all over the internet all of this 5G bashing. Oh, doctors say it's bad for you. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. It's all propaganda to get you to go along with living in a 4G world, a 4G country rather, when the rest of the world is going to 5G. And considering that the United States invented the internet, you would be shocked at how far behind we are compared to the rest of the world at consumer level. I mean, over in Japan, they have gigabit into homes. We invented a technology, we didn't stick with it, the rest of the world took over and moved out ahead of us. Okay. North Korea is out there saying that the U.S. should consider their consequences of the ship seizure. And North Korea's UN ambassador says the Trump administration should consider the consequences of the seizing of a North Korean cargo ship could have on relations between the new countries and immediately return the vessel. Personally, I think it would be a good idea. We got to take a break right now. We'll be right back after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And talking about all these people staring at each other. This is an article that I think says a great deal, and it basically echoes a lot of what I've been saying on the show here in recent months. World ready for U.S. collapse as empire hemorrhages gold, oil, and credibility. And they're basically saying that we have a totally corrupt government. We have a reality TV star for a president. We're seeing the Trump derangement disorder sufferers out there just behaving badly. And the realization that the choice of president matters as much as the choice of conductor for the band that plays aboard a ship as it vanishes beneath the waves. We are an empire in decline. And we're seeing that the established bureaucracy is still trying to get Donald Trump out of office. I'm not exactly sure why. He's given them pretty much everything that they want. Another little article over here from unz.com. Do spies run the world? And it says that, yes, we all know there are intelligence agencies out there, and in theory, they're supposed to be subordinate to the civilian leadership. But we know that's not the case. We know intelligence agencies very often get the idea they know what's best for the country. Good example would be the Bay of Pigs. John F. Kennedy had no idea that was being set up. The CIA lied to him about that. And then after that whole debacle ran all over and fell apart, the CIA set it up again. And Kennedy had to shut that down. So yeah, the intelligence agencies, and I guess to judge by what we've seen with the Trump-Russia collusion investigation, some of our non-espionage agencies, they think they're in charge. They serve a higher purpose. They know what's best for the country. So, anyway, story out of Russia Insider. From false hope to false flags, Trump sets the stage for global war. And it's interesting. They make a reference to a television series of the 1990s, Babylon 5, and it was a very interesting show. And it talks about one of the main characters, Londo, a weak and venal man, makes a deal with the devil and unleashes his dying empire's worst impulses in an attempt to restore its former glory. And obviously the concern here is, will the United States government, unable to restore its former glory, simply go ahead and say, we're just going to wreck everybody else? And then we can go back to saying we're number one. Okay, I think there should be some music there. yeah, we're going to take a break here for station identification, and we'll be right back. I know, lover, I got your text. Oops, forgot to turn.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Well, as we've mentioned before, Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is going to Israel with a large contingent of business leaders, which includes members of his cabinet. And he's basically trying to woo the Jewish voters ahead of the 2020 presidential election. But DeSantis planned to hold a meeting with his elected cabinet while he's in Israel is raising concerns about whether officials are violating the state's open meeting laws. Frankly, there are a lot of people who think this is just a little bit of too much of a pander to Israel. And I think it was a bad idea. The optics are very, very bad. And of course, while he's there, DeSantis is also going to sign the new BDS resolution, which is an absolute affront to the First Amendment. Over in Israel, their Attorney General has now delayed Netanyahu's corruption hearing until October. So Mandelblit announced today that the hearing will now be held on the 2nd and 3rd of October, 3 months later than the July date originally mandated by the Attorney General. In the meantime, it may be moot because the Israeli Knesset is weighing legislation that would grant government officials immunity from criminal prosecution. And that, of course, would spare Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from 3 looming corruption indictments. So if this law passes, elected officials cannot be charged with a criminal offense unless the 120-member Knesset and the Knesset House Committee agree to waive immunity. Should Netanyahu's Likud party secure a coalition and outnumber its rivals, the measure basically puts them above the law for as long as they serve in government. That's a bad way to run a country. And the Israeli government has now retracted its claim that 2 journalists led a riot in Nabi Salah in 2015 and that their beating by soldiers was justified. Well, the journalists had sued, and of course the defense of Israel was, well, they were leading the riot. Israel has now been forced to admit they were not rioters. It was part of a compromise. where these journalists are only getting a fraction of the damages initially sought. Okay, let's see. We're going to take a phone call. Ken in Illinois. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Jim from Illinois.
It's what?
Chicago. Jim from Chicago.
Okay, Jim from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Michael, I just turned the program on. Have you talked about Donald Trump wanting to, going to pardon those soldiers that committed war crimes? Have you heard about that?
I have not heard about that at all. But at
Yeah,
this
what
point,
it
it
is,
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because one of the guys, he's a naval SEAL, and even his commander and his fellow naval SEALs, they said this guy really needs to be court-martialed and sent to prison because apparently he shot and killed over 10 civilians, including men and women. And this other guy, he was court-martialed and sent to prison for urinating on corpses of the Afghan soldiers that were killed in a battle. And there's another guy, I think he was accused of killing a woman and her son in Afghanistan, and Trump wants to pardon all these guys. And the military are very upset about that.
Yeah, I'm looking at an article about it right now. He hasn't, apparently he's going to do it on Memorial Day.
Monday,
and yeah, the military brass are saying, no, this is not good.
So how do you feel about it? And why do you think he's doing it?
He's doing it so he can act presidential. I think it's very ill-considered. I mean, there are people who deserve pardons, like, well, for example, Leonard Peltier.
Right.
And for Trump to pardon these military people whose own comrades are saying what they did was reprehensible. Again, looking at the optics, it just, you ask, why? Why is he doing it?
I understand the guy does some crazy things, but I don't understand this one at all. I mean, the military's not happy about it. People like myself and you are not happy about it. What are you gaining from this?
I don't know. This may be something that he got from Bolton or Pompeo, who seem to have Trump wrapped around their little finger.
And the Secretary of State, he was in the military. He graduated from West Point. So I don't get it. I'm really scratching my head about this. It's basically beyond immoral.
It is.
Well,
He's basically rubber stamping war crimes. Maybe that's the whole point of this, is he's sending a message to the troops out in the world. Go ahead and do whatever you're going to do. Forget about the Geneva Convention. Forget about international law, because, as soon as I get you back home, you're all going to be pardoned. Of course, if we lose the war and these soldiers wind up in a military tribunal in other countries, it's going to be a completely different story.
Right, and you might be right, because timing is everything. So, Michael, you take care.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open. So getting on back to Israel, there's another article, this is out of Middle East Monitor, denouncing Germany's decision to equate BDS with anti-Semitism as immoral. And they're saying it violates international law, international legitimacy, and it violates freedom of speech and expression. It violates the right of people to support the oppressed around the world. Now, yesterday we had that article that said that maybe the reason Germany did this is they're still suffering from Holocaust guilt. And that is absolute nonsense. Of course, Israel keeps pushing that. You're all guilty for what happened before you were born. But it's utter nonsense. It is complete and utter nonsense. I refuse to accept responsibility for things that happened before I was born. I refuse to accept responsibility for anything that happens outside my direct control. And that's the way all modern Germans ought to be thinking about this. But what the German government has done, boy, it's almost like they're slipping back to the days of the Third Reich. You will not say this, you will not say that. We'll burn the books. Up in there's a lawsuit going on. Basically, the Canadian laws to to have wines that are made and manufactured in the illegal Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank, they're allowed to be labeled product of Israel. And so David Kattenberg, a Jewish Canadian activist based in Winnipeg, has applied to the Federal Court of Canada for an order declaring unlawful the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's directive, and saying that if it comes from the illegal settlements, it should be labeled Project of Palestine or Project of the West Bank. And by allowing the wine to be labeled Product of Israel, it's basically an endorsement of Israel's annexation of the settlements. All right, let's get into the economic news here. I'm going to start with this article. Actually, it's a YouTube video, and you may want to hunt it down on the whatreallyhappened.com page. Why the U.S. has no high-speed rail. And we're looking at all these other countries who are developing these amazing trains that are just whizzing along on their magnets, like the maglev they've got in Shanghai, 200, 300 miles an hour. And everyone says, why doesn't the United States have that? Well, in a lot of ways, we've allowed our rail structure to deteriorate, and except for cargo capacity, there's not much passenger train use in the United States compared to, for example, Europe. And a lot of that goes back to economics, where following the end of World War II and this flood of soldiers coming back to the United States, the automobile makers saw an opportunity to sell a lot of cars. The tire companies saw an opportunity to sell a lot of tires. And there was this push into the automobile economy, and it worked very, very well, to the point where American cars were considered the best in the world and were sought after. But along the way, rail travel was de-emphasized in order to basically build the market for citizens to have their own cars. Now, I'll be very honest, I like driving my own car, but having experienced the rail systems in Europe, it's an alternate way to go. And if your rail systems are integrated into the cities properly, they can work effectively. Munich comes to mind as one example. Sydney, Australia is a very good one. New York, they've done a good job. Yes, there's unfortunately a lot of dirt and crime and stuff down in the cars, but in terms of getting from point A to point B, it really works. Standing in sharp contrast, I'm afraid, our yet to be completed light rail system here in Oahu it's basically going to go from 2 business centers and a couple of shopping malls. But that's why we don't have the high-speed rail, and it looks like the attempt to build one in California is stumbling rather badly. And the money just pours on in and nothing gets done, which is becoming a hallmark of the American system these days. Apparently, the St. Louis Federal Reserve is promoting still more free money for the banks to keep them liquid, to keep them interested in buying treasuries, and they don't want to have to report those numbers to the public. China is now defying the sanctions against Iran. They are resuming their purchases of Iranian oil. So Trump, or whoever's handling that part of our foreign policy, is not doing it very well. And again, I've been saying it all along. How disjointed can you be? You're trying to talk to China about favorable trade relations. At the same time, you're sailing your warships into waters claimed by China, which annoys them. You're sailing their warships down the Taiwan Strait, also provocative. It doesn't really make any sense. It's almost like there are 2 different administrations in Washington, D.C., one of them trying to make things better and the other just trying to put the monkey wrench into the works here. Now, a lot of people have talked about Amazon and how rough it can be to work there. Amazon apparently has heard the complaints. And as we mentioned already, their warehouses are incredibly automated. There are robots. There are robotic shelves that literally drive up to where the workers are packing the boxes. So they don't have to walk down and get the product. They just reach in, and there it is, all ready for them to go. Very cool system. So now Amazon is piloting a program in 5 fulfillment centers around the country where they're turning the workflow into like a video game. So at employee workstations, games with names like Mission Racer, Pix in Space, Dragon Duel, and Castle Crafter appear on a small screen with retro-looking pixelated graphics, and it keeps track of the employee's work. And apparently, as you do your work, the game gets played. And so people are going to be naturally motivated to want to work just that much faster. It's a very, very clever idea. And I think it could actually work. And the reason I say that, do you remember the original Battlestar Galactica, the first one, back in 19... I got to work on that. And there was that huge bridge set that went down into this well into the ground. And there were all these extras pretending to be crew on all these various jobs. The way we kept them focused on their screens, they all had computer games on them. So they wouldn't just be sitting back and say, okay, I'm going to pretend to be doing my job. They were focused intently because they were playing these computer games. Again, very, very clever way of solving a problem. Story coming on out of Business Insider, nothing Elon Musk has done has stopped the bleeding at Tesla, and things look like they're going to get worse. Tesla managed to raise another $2.7 billion, but things look just as desperate as ever. And Tesla stock has fallen by about a quarter over the past month. Analysts up and down Wall Street chopped their stock price targets and forward-looking estimates at a steady clip. Morgan Stanley is warning Tesla is facing a bankruptcy. I would hate to see that happen. Now, I'll be very honest here. I have never been in a Tesla. I've never driven one, but I have had a chance to look at one from outside. And except for the every great once-in-a-while tendency to explode while charging, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great car. I mean, I grew up as a gearhead, petrol head, if you will. But I'm in agreement that once a clean source of electric generation is found, that electric cars are going to be the wave of the future. And that'll get the carbon Nazis to shut the heck up. Okay, one of our callers mentioned this before. British Steel, the company British Steel, has been ordered into compulsory liquidation after talks with the government failed to secure a bailout. That is threatening about 5,000 employees at British Steel itself, with another 20,000 jobs down the supply chain. The steel maker had requested an emergency $38 million bailout loan from the British government following dwindling European sales amid Brexit uncertainty and an ill-fated decision to sell off excess carbon credits earlier this year. So I think the British government needs to step in and save British Steel for a very pragmatic reason. You use up a lot of steel in war. So now Microsoft hasn't said a word so far about Huawei's ban in the US, but it has gone ahead and removed Huawei laptops from the Microsoft online stores. Now, Huawei laptops are still being sold in physical Microsoft stores that still have the computers in stock, but apparently they're not going to be renewed. Microsoft has made no official statement about this yet. Over at the Home Depot, and it's one of my favorite places to go, they have a marvelous tool department, and they have been getting into the business of tool rentals, because a lot of people, home improvement professionals, tend to rent their tools. 90% of professional home improvement people rent their tools. Only a few years ago, only 10% rented from Home Depot. So Home Depot CEO Craig Minier is saying that number has improved to 25%, but there is an opportunity for further growth. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Why buy yourself a circular saw that you're going to use for one project and then it sits in the garage rusting for the next several years? I think it's a very, very good idea. A lot of people still talking about the U.S. farm bailout again. They're asking for $20 billion more. Here is where the scandal is breaking. Small farms, family-owned farms, did not get the bailout money. It all went primarily to corporate-owned farming entities. So once again, we're hearing a debate between gold bugs and the paper currency people. And you always hear that thing about, why buy gold? You can't eat gold. Well, you can't eat dollar bills. Well, you can, but there's no nutritional value. Same thing for the euros, bolivars, or all the other paper currencies. Gold holds its value. And if you don't believe me, try exchanging Confederate money, Yugoslavian dinars, Hungarian pengos, Weimar Reichsmarks, or hundreds of other failed currencies for food. You will definitely starve. Yes, you should be buying metals right now. Okay, the retail apocalypse is continuing. Nordstrom has crashed to an 8-year low. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting Truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings.
And aloha America, welcome back to our show here. And once again, we are standing before you with our hands outstretched saying, please, sir, can I have some more? I know times are tight for everybody. We're seeing it all around us. It's the reason we're leaving Hawaii. We just can't afford to live here anymore. And so we're getting ready to make that happen and go someplace where it's cheaper to live. So if you are able, we need your help. The postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a debit or credit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. And just as I came on back and sat down here, I looked over here at the Fox News feed. What's the banner headline? Assad suspected of using chemical weapons. So they're going to get ready to ramp up in Syria again. At the same time, they're getting ready, apparently, to ramp up in Venezuela. At the same time, they're getting ready to spark off a war with Iran. And it's insane. It's insane. I would love to find a way, maybe if I could find the Elder Wand, to just wrap up all these people in Washington, D.C. who think war is cool and transport them to the front lines. Just drop them on down and all the mud and the blood and the smoke and the destruction and say, okay, you still think this is a good idea. Turning to the immigration situation, apparently less than 2 miles of actual wall have been built, with the $1.5 billion that Congress appropriated last year for the wall along the Mexican border. And 1.7 miles of fencing, I mean, that's ludicrous. And the idea that it's costing effectively $1 billion a mile for fence, somebody is making a huge profit off of this. It's another racket. It's another bleed of the American taxpayer for something that will be ineffective. Remember, there was that other border wall, was back in, I think, the 1990s, and they budgeted a huge amount of money for 700 miles of border fence, of which only 30 miles got built. But $1 billion per mile, the nation will be bankrupt. Something has gone horribly wrong down there, and somebody needs to go on down there on a fact-finding mission and say, what the heck is costing so much? Let's copy the one that Hungary did. It's proven to be very effective. It's just 2 lines of chain link fence with, a tangle wire on the top, and it's electrified. And it did the trick. And I'm pretty sure they didn't spend $1 billion per mile on that. Federal Commission has found that 42%, let me back up here, 42% of federal crimes are being committed by the illegal immigrants. Apparently, new asylum seekers are being forced to wait up to a year in Mexico. Well, yeah, that's unfortunately part of the process here. Over in Great Britain earlier today, there was speculation that Theresa May was about to resign. She basically canceled meetings with various cabinet ministers, but as of the last word, she's clinging on as Prime Minister and will discuss her future with Sir Graham Brady on Friday. Now, Sir Graham Brady is the chairman of the 1922 Committee of Backbench Tory MPs. So it looks like it's only a matter of time before she's gone. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage, who is described as Britain's Donald Trump, he's a very significant man in British politics. In just a few weeks, he's gathered huge political momentum. And in the European Parliament elections, he appears likely to score more votes than the Labour Party and the Conservatives combined. And Farage stood up against the entire political establishment, including the media and the commercial elites, and he's promising to change British politics once and for all. So far, he's winning on all fronts. So, good for Nigel Farage. Out in Los Angeles, there is growing concern over the literally mountains of rotting garbage that are infested with rats. And we know from last year, some of them are carrying typhus. And again, nothing is being done. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s. Along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months, Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And Fox News is now running a story on the backlash over these possible Trump pardons on Memorial Day. And apparently the situation is made more complex by the fact that one of the soldiers, a Major Golsteyn, I think is how it's pronounced, has admitted to just shooting and killing a Taliban suspect. That is a war crime. And we're seeing a lot of top military saying, no, this is inappropriate. This is going to destroy the morale of the forces. Or at the very least, it's sending a signal, go ahead and behave this way because, you know, you'll get pardoned. Okay, apparently they're making a big deal. More Russian bombers flew close to Alaska. I wonder if Sarah Palin could see them from her porch. So let's take a phone call from Ken in Michigan. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. You were talking about electric cars not too long ago.
Yes.
The only way to make an electric car the wave of the future is to make it self-sustaining. Put an onboard generator, you know, something that would power your house, you know, in the car, being driven by a pulley off the drive axle of the electric motor, charge the battery. That way,
That's a
you
perpetual
have a
motion
limited
machine.
range.
That's never going to work.
So your perpetual motion machine could charge the battery, which would give you unlimited range. With no fossil fuels, no coal, no nothing. It's just there.
Yeah.
You can go wherever you want with it.
You know, I put that in the same category as the cars that run on water and the rest of it. The fact of the matter is there needs to be an outside source of electricity unless and until we reach a point where the power efficiency of solar cells is great enough where simply having solar cells all over the outside of the car can charge the battery. But then what do you do on cloudy days or at night? But this idea of, you know, hooking in a generator, I mean, that the math doesn't work on out. The energy lost in the inefficiency of the system, eventually the system winds down. So thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. So we were talking about this problem hitting Los Angeles where they're just infested with rats. And part of the problem, of course, are these piles of uncollected garbage all over the city, which includes a lot of food waste. The trash has apparently been abandoned by the city for lack of funding. And business owners and residents are very angry at the city for allowing the garbage to worsen and threaten their health. And don't forget, it wasn't all that long ago that they had this incident where there was a rat in LA City Hall that drove everybody into a panic. So Los Angeles is the second most rat-infested city in the country. New York is in third place. Chicago is on top. We're number one. We're number one. We're number one. So having learned nothing from the typhus outbreak last year, Los Angeles is risking another Dark Ages plague, because it is known that many of those rats are in fact carrying fleas that in turn carry typhus. Over at NPR, National Public Radio, they have provided a new guidance reminder to journalists on how to report on abortion in an anti-pro-life way. And they basically are saying guidance reminder on abortion procedures, terminology, and rights. And basically, it's very obvious NPR is on the pro-abortion side, and they don't want anybody broadcasting from NPR who might be construed as having an alternate opinion. We have been talking about how there are a lot of false rape accusations out there, and we have to be on guard against them because they make a very powerful weapon for unscrupulous women. So apparently there was this woman who 3 years ago accused Georgia Tech head basketball coach Josh Pastner of sexually assaulting her in a hotel room. And it basically turned out to be false. The couple were, the girl who claimed to be the victim and her boyfriend, who was also a former friend of Pastner, were trying to get into a fraud scheme to basically level this false accusation against the coach to get him to obtain settlement money. You know, give us so much money or we'll go public with the story. We're going to take you to court. It'll be an end to your career. Well, I'm glad that that one fell apart. We have to return to being a more honorable country. If we ourselves are not honorable, how can we expect our government to be honorable? And I know the converse is true. If our government is so dishonorable, that explains why so many Americans behave dishonorably. Well, somebody over in the U.S. aviation infrastructure industry, whatever, is trying to save Boeing's bacon because they've come out now with this report on CNBC saying that a bird strike may have been a factor in the crash of the Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX in March. And they're basically saying that a bird strike could have triggered the anti-stall MCAS system in the flight that killed 8 Americans among 35 nationalities on board. However, the airline said there was no evidence of any foreign object damage as the probe remains open. Now, SpaceX, which is part of Elon Musk's empire that is doing wonderfully well, and I applaud those people, they're getting ready for one of their most ambitious projects ever. It is called Starlink, and it is going to be a satellite-based internet system. So no more wires running all over the cities and everything. It's just going to be little antennas like a Wi-Fi antenna in your home, and it will reach one of 60 satellites orbiting at 550 kilometers high, and it will basically be duplex, two-way into your home. And I think it's a great idea because one of the reasons companies switched over to fiber optic nets, not only were they faster, there simply isn't enough conductive metal in the Earth's crust to hook all the world's computers together. So they had to find a way to have more computers communicating with less hardware, and this looks like a really good way to do that. I remember when we were living in the wilds of the Cascade Mountains when we left Southern California, and we got one of the first satellite TV systems. And interestingly enough, it had an internet capability, but it was one way. You could get internet out of the back of the satellite receiver box, but in order to ask for anything, you had to log in on a regular over-the-phone modem line, which made it less than wonderful, but I guess progress is being made. All right, let's talk about the iPhone. One of the things that is really amazing about the iPhone and also the iPad are the gyroscopes. Now, in the earlier models, they really were gyroscopes that spun. Today, they're still called gyroscopes, but they're actually ganged accelerometers. They are very, very accurate. And apparently, researchers have discovered that people can uniquely identify the handsets just by how they're being carried. And apparently, Cambridge University researchers will present a paper to the IEEE Symposium on Security and Privacy 2019, explaining how they literally fingerprint the handset using this clever method of inferring device-unique accelerometer calibration data. Now, this apparently does not work on Android because its positioning devices are nowhere near as accurate. So one of the scientists, one of the researchers said there's a certain sense of irony that because Apple has put more effort in to provide more accuracy, it has this unfortunate side effect. Apple has patched the flaws in iOS 12.2 by blocking access to these sensors in mobile Safari by default, as well as adding some noise to make the attack much more difficult. Alrighty, over on Facebook, Facebook, as you know, has this facial recognition technology. Now, it's not recognizing necessarily your face, but Facebook was supposed to have this privacy setting that lets their users opt out of the site scanning their pictures for faces. And Consumer Reports examined a set of Facebook accounts and found that a significant number didn't actually have the ability to toggle off face recognition. Now, Facebook announced they were going to do this 2 years ago. Consumer Reports looked at the accounts of 31 Facebook users. 8 of them did not have the privacy setting. That's a very frustrating thing. Not that I use Facebook a lot anymore, but when I've gone on in there and I'm reading the manual page online on how to do something, and it's just not there at the user interface. So either the online documentation is out of date, which means they've laid staff off, or there's bugs in the software and stuff that should be there isn't. All right, patches have been issued for Spectre and Meltdown, and it turns out that the Intel chip's performance hit was 5 times greater than that of AMD. And this has to be very frustrating for people who paid for these high-performance chips, only to have to cripple them with these patches and go back to being just an ordinary computer. Now, here's an interesting little story. It's coming out of CuzBlue. The United Nations, no less, is claiming that Amazon's Alexa and Apple's Siri are sexist because its female voice reinforces the idea that women are subservient. No, that's not what's going on. Research into voice reminder systems showed years ago that in a noisy environment, a higher-pitched female voice was heard more clearly than that of a man. And so voice reminder systems tend to have these female voices. And I'm pretty certain that's what Amazon and Apple were thinking about when they chose the voices. Make sure that people can hear what is being said. By the way, if you're in Oklahoma, please keep an eye out the window. That heavy weather is just absolutely continuing. Massive flooding again. We're just not cutting a break, are we? It's almost like there's some deity somewhere that is punishing the United States for waging war on the rest of the world. Cue the music from Twilight Zone. We are seeing more and more scary stories in the corporate media about human-caused global warming. They're changing the words again, climate disruption. It doesn't really matter. It's out there. They're just pushing the idea. And psychologists are saying that, as a matter of fact, people are becoming traumatized, if not terrorized, by all of this. The people who are believing all these stories, they're developing stress because of it. And so the carbon Nazis have come on back saying that the climate change itself is causing the mental anguish among humans. Seriously. It's not the fault of the propaganda, which it is, because the world is not broiling. I mean, I think about Bill Nye when he was on Last Week Tonight, just out there saying, the earth is on blanking fire. Not very scientific of Bill Nye, the science guy. And of course, that was just a nickname given to him early in his career. one of the pushes of the Carbonazis is that we stop eating beef, so that we stop growing cattle, so that they stop producing methane, which is also a greenhouse gas. And they're trying to come on with these plant-based meat synthetics. And already there have been issues about labeling on those, whether you can call it a meat product or you have to say, this is a synthetic. So there's a new burger out called the Impossible Burger. It's a plant-based patty. It's supposed to rival the real thing. And apparently they're close to meat in taste and texture, and were produced in a way that would obviate the need for animal factory farms. There's only one problem. The Impossible Burgers are $16, which is a lot in a $5 Whopper world. So I don't think this is going to be a huge success. I'm sure the liberals and Carbonazis will spend the extra money. Me personally, I'm out of my hamburger eating days anyway. A new study from the University of Eastern Finland shows that a moderately high intake of dietary cholesterol or consumption of up to 1 egg per day is not associated with an elevated risk of stroke. Remember, we were getting that all over the media some years ago. Oh, you can't have eggs. Instead, buy this processed egg that we made and put in this carton at a serious markup. You have to be careful about a lot of these so-called studies. They're there to convince you to stop eating stuff out of nature and eat more of the manufactured food. So Finland is saying eating cholesterol in eggs does not increase the risk of stroke. Here's a little interesting article that came out of Government Slaves, basically saying that 98% of FDA rulings are unconstitutional. Saying because basically the FDA is not a law-making body, and they're not democratically accountable. And we know they've made a lot of decisions which favor corporations and not the American people. Apparently, the salmonella outbreak has now spread to 21 states. No deaths are reported, but 5 people have been hospitalized. And apparently, they're pointing the finger at people who like to raise their own chickens. And they're saying that the disease is being passed by getting ducklings and chicks from hatcheries and agricultural stores. So we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to aroutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at aroutfitting.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Looking at my email, there's an article responding to my comment about Japan having gigabit into the home. And he says, and South Korea, and in both, they pay like $30 a month for that gigabit, no caps and or throttling either. The U.S. telephone cable companies have become the 21st century reincarnation of the railroads. Ones and zeros are the new freight and cargo, and they're controlling all routes and charging you up the rear end to move anything to anywhere. That's certainly true. I pay for 300 megabits per second to Spectrum, and we're getting 60. Now, I'm hoping where we're moving to, we're going to have a little bit better connectivity. But yeah, it's pretty bad. All right, let's back up and catch a few more stories from Retail Mageddon. We mentioned yesterday that John Deere has slashed production because of the farm slowdown in the Midwest. After 114 years, JCPenney is on life support. Like Sears, it may soon be gone. Another iconic American retailer. Fruit of the Loom has announced 100 layoffs. And now analysts are saying that bigger cuts are needed over at Ford than what they've already announced. So, amazing. Here's a bizarre story. This is coming out of Blacklisted News. 7 years ago, Colorado citizens basically made history by voting to legalize recreational marijuana. And apparently this month they voted to decriminalize magic mushrooms. It's not exactly legal. The cops just aren't going to make a big deal about trying to find you. But apparently there's a move toward decriminalization. Over in Oakland, they're decriminalizing psilocybin and other psychedelics like mescaline cacti, ayahuasca, and ibogaine, which I've never even heard of those last two. And it doesn't mean they're legal. It just means the cops aren't going to make it a priority to go after them. Now, in this world of increasingly antibiotic-resistant infections, there's this doctor who's gone back to study the medical writings of the Confederates. And apparently during the Civil War, the Confederate Surgeon General commissioned a guide to traditional plant remedies of the South to deal with the infections. And a new study of 3 of the plants in this guide, white oak, tulip poplar, and the devil's walking stick, finds they do indeed have antiseptic properties. So I'm sure our pharmaceutical corporations are going to say, we have to ban those until we can make something that's just sort of kind of like them, that's patentable and available only by prescription. Following that backlash over the use of a gene editing tool on human embryos, China is tightening regulation. And here's the interesting part. The country's civil law now explicitly lists human genes and embryos as protected personal rights, meaning your DNA belongs to you. It's the end of our show. There's the music. Please stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it with everybody that you know. Please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. Thanks to everybody who has already done so. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.